Hey, Resonate. Hope you are doing well. I assume many of you are sort of locked down in your homes like I am. Just wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, miss you guys. Love you. Not really expecting this to be happening in our spring semester. I don't think any of us were really expecting this. But man, God's will is being carried out. It's not being thwarted. It's not being changed. And he's allowing all of this to take place. And so just wanted to update you. Hey, this Thursday, we don't have Resonate. Our first opportunity would be at the beginning of April. I'll keep you up to date on social media and our text on what we're going to be doing. So really just trying to think through, hey, how we're going to go about this in our virtual world. So we're really connected, even if we're in our own homes. We can stay connected here in this. So I had a couple thoughts here, just as all this is coming out, as there's seemingly just big chaos going on, as there's fear, as there's heartbreak, as there's hurt. You know, I know there's some weddings that are going to have to be altered in some big ways. So I've been hearing from some of you, hey, your graduations are canceled for you that are seniors, and especially for sports where seniors, your sport year after all this time from such a young kid to here looking to this culmination is being canceled. There is some heartache and some heartbreak there. And so as a community, let's just lovingly come along one another. Let's be hurting with those that are hurting, sorrowful with those that are sorrowful. And just coming alongside them as the plans that we made, the dreams that we have had have not been what God is doing right now. And so let's hurt with each other on that. And in a larger scale, man, there's sickness and death that's going on. I know there's some major sicknesses that are touching this ministry as well. And so we just love you as well as those things are going on as you're going after that. For those of you that have had semesters cut short, or you're doing classes online from home, or hey, you had this huge study abroad experience that got cut short. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot at play, but we serve a sovereign God. I was reminded these last couple days of Job in the Old Testament. Job was a man that loved the Lord, that served the Lord. And then Satan and God had this interaction where Satan said to God, well, Job only worships you. He only follows you because you're giving him all these material blessings. That Job only worships you for what you've given him in this life. And so God gave Satan permission to sort of sift Job, to challenge him. He couldn't take Job's life, but he could go up to a certain point in that. And so Job, this man that worshiped and loved God, faced a lot of tragedies. The plans and the thoughts of his life, the dreams that he had for his life, they were dashed. His kids died in a really tragic way, in a sudden way. I can't even imagine the heartbreak and the hurt that would come from that. And what is more, even in that, like, he's this heartbroken man, but then his wealth and all of his material blessings are taken away from him. And then it got to the point where Job was even tested with his health. His health was taken away. And he was, just sitting as a poor, destitute man. Like, woe is me. In a culture and a situation where people would say, only this would happen to you, Job, because of your sin. His wife actually, in some of the worst and darkest moments of his soul, said, Job, just curse God and die. Like, just curse God and die. Be done with it. His friends got around him, and they all said, Job, clearly you've sinned. Clearly you've done wrong. And they just didn't hurt with him in the moment and didn't offer him that great of advice. And finally, Job starts to begin to question God, God's goodness, God's sovereignty, God's will, God's plan. And God appears to Job in this storm. And he starts to question Job as God appears in just a small part, but an awesome, awe-inspiring part in this storm, demonstrating his majesty and his sovereignty and his awe to Job. And Job is just taken aback. Like, what in the world have I even been thinking? Our God is an awesome God. And Job in Job 42:2 says, I know that you can do all things. He's speaking to God. I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Our God is a sovereign God, and we may not understand, we may never understand fully in this life, God, why did you allow this to happen? Why did you allow these things that I had set my heart on, that I'd been planning for, and even good things, be stopped or be changed or be moved in a different way? And so maybe today you're in that spot, and maybe you need to be asking yourself those questions. God, I may not know ever why you allowed this to happen. I had been planning this very good thing, but you allowed this to happen. How can I worship you in the midst of that? How can I see your purpose and plan in the midst of that? How can I see the good coming out of all of that? And I know some of you are hurting today, and just hear me on this. I love you. I'm hurting with you. This is not how my spring I had planned it to go, or this ministry to go. And for me, it's a very small thing. And I'm doing my very best to see God's plan and purpose in that. And so a couple of ways I'm seeing that in my life. And maybe I'd challenge you as you're journaling, as you're in God's Word, to see His plan in this as well. God is providing us with some solitude, whether we want it or not. We are such connected beings. We're such social beings. And we're being sort of cut off from that in a lot of ways. But Jesus, we see Jesus constantly going to a spot of solitude and in prayer. And so as a minister, I just encourage you, hey, as we have some solitude, as we have some time of disconnect, seek the Lord in prayer. This is a perfect time to seek out the Lord, to seek Him out in our hurts, bringing these hurts, bringing these dashed plans to Him. Lord, I had such big hopes for this going on. Lord, why? And Lord, please work in this. Please reveal what you're trying to teach me through and in the midst of this. Lord, I want to seek you. I want to worship you with all I have. These plans, my plans have been laid to waste. What are your plans? What are your hopes? What are your desires? What is your will for me now? So just seek Him in prayer. Be honest with Him. Be real with Him. You don't have to be formulaic. You don't have to be just everything is good. Go to Him with your hurts. Go to Him in the heartache. Go to Him with all of this. This is an awesome opportunity that we can go to prayer for each other, that we can go to prayer to our God in. So do take advantage of that. This is an awesome time to be drawn back to His Word. I know I was talking to my elderly neighbor this morning and just checking in on him. And maybe that's a service opportunity for you to check in with your grandparents and check in with the elderly or your neighbors to see how you can care for and love them. But he was saying, I have nothing to watch. I only have, there's no sports on. There's nothing. I'm getting bored of all this. In our boredom, maybe instead of being bored, maybe we can just have some serious times of prayer where we're seeking out the Lord, seeking out His will and plan for our life and these next steps. Our prayer life needs to be ramped up. Our time in God's Word, that we can just dig into that we can find meaningful times. A really great way to do that, and just really simplistically, is to say, Lord, what does this passage teach me about you, about your character, about who you are? In a world that is chaotic, knowing a God that is constant, a God that is sovereign, a God that is loving, a God that is in control, who is all powerful, man, is critical to giving us and bringing us peace. It brings me peace to know that God is control in the midst of everything that's going on. And you could read news article after news article about how the end of the world is coming. But we know that we serve an eternal and awesome and majestic and all-powerful God, and we can rest in that. So what does the passage teach me about God? What does it teach me about my responsibility, what God has called me to in that? And in the midst of that, man, how can I be applying that into my daily life, even in the midst of coronavirus 19 and all that's going on with that? How can I be applying that truth into my life and living that out? Who can I be reaching out to, even digitally, even in our community? Can I be reaching out to others and caring for others and praying for others? So be digging into God's word, be going back to prayer, be assessing, man, in my life, what is important? What is truly important? And man, maybe the direction of a lot of our lives is going to change from this. As we seek the Lord and the Lord reveals his will to us and we have a real gut check, maybe our pursuits and what we're pursuing and how we're pursuing are going to be changing. And so I'm going to send out some more updates. We're going to have some more things going on. If we get into April and we're still not having group, I'm going to do my best to go after doing a virtual or digital group. And maybe just recording my message on sexual purity, and then our breakout groups can be virtual. Still working and thinking through that, and we're just going to take this day by day, week by week, see what the government has called us to, and see what we can go after as a community. As always, feel free to reach out. I would love to be praying for you and caring for you in the meantime, so don't hesitate to text or to reach out to our social media. Love all of you, praying for all of you. Let's just see what God has to teach us and how he desires to disciple us in the midst of hardship and heartache and challenge in the midst of this time. All right. Feel free to reach out. Love you guys.